displeasure of knowing, and I would strongly advise against taking anything he says as fact. I would advise against giving him any kind of support, even if you're just watching the kind of content he puts out, because it does encourage him to continue. Once I can fall asleep at night without having want to talk more about this, I want to talk more about what I've been through, especially this situation, and I definitely
from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. All right, it has been, I don't even know, a few days now since Peyton Brown came out with his interview with John Yates, where he talked about Meri and the family and all these very big bombshells about growing up under the sister wives household of the Browns. And it's been the news about Meri that has reverberated and sort of sent the internet into a tizzy about, did she, didn't she, is she, isn't she? And then there's this whole, he said a lot of other things, but people are very divided, and I understand that. I understand that people don't like to sometimes acknowledge that people that they love can do bad things. And I also understand that people will say, well, Paedon has an axe to grind, or Paedon is lying. And his sister Gwendlyn came out with a video on her Patreon, and this was actually shared on TikTok, and she actually kind of went after him and said that, you know, don't encourage him to speak out because it will only just further make him, like, don't support what he puts out because it will only further encourage him to speak more, and it will only further make him spread such horrible things about his family. She didn't like, in particular, the things that he had to say about her in the video, in the interview, which was actually the very last, like, 30 minutes, where he talked about their complicated relationship and how, you know, she doesn't like him because of his politics and because he's a man, and just a variety of different things. He was also not super sympathetic or supportive of who she is as a person or what she thinks as a person. And there's clearly a really difficult relationship between the two of them. I heard what he said about Gwendlyn. I had a feeling that Gwendlyn was going to respond because that seemed to be how Gwendlyn is. If you follow her on any of her platforms, she is not shy to address how she feels about politics, about how she feels about her identity, or how she feels about how people express themselves about their identities and how they feel about race and how they feel about things politically. And she and Paedon are on, like, polar opposite ends of the spectrum. So she posted a short video on her TikTok where she basically says you shouldn't trust him, which is actually, I think, kind of interesting, being that, you know, he could be untruthful about some things, but she also called Kody hypocritical for trying to silence the kids. So isn't it slightly hypocritical of her to maybe say, don't listen to him because what he's saying isn't true? I'll have to ask you that. That's just me posing the question. I'm certainly not thinking that. That's me posing the question to you. So we'll dive into her video, and we'll also talk about, you know, some other things, little nuggets that I've found over the last several days. So before we dive into today's topic, can you do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, could you please subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed? You can do so by turning on the, clicking the button below. Make sure, if you'd like to get notified of new content, you click on the bell, and leave some comments if you have something to say, and always share this video with your friends. Patreon is a site where you can feature paid content to people that pay for access to whatever it is that you put on out. So Gwen has a Patreon, McKelty and Tony have Patreons, and some fans are actually offended that they would go behind a paywall to talk about things which will end up getting out publicly because of who they are, and they feel like the family is capitalizing on everything on their own right. I'm not against anyone using Patreon personally. I found this actually in an article, like In Touch is talking about it. Literally, the Ashley Reality Roundup, every outlet has been covering this video, so I was like, well, I guess it's out. But the video is kind of telling. cut out the part where she calls him a lot of names about what she thinks about him, like that he's, yeah, just a lot of names. But this is what she said after she called him a lot of names.
Person I've ever had the displeasure of knowing, and I would strongly advise against taking anything he says as fact. I would advise against giving him any kind of support, even if you're just watching the kind of content he puts out, because it does encourage him to continue. Once I can fall asleep at night.
That I was told that in her Patreon, people were asking her to respond to what Paedon was doing, and she was answering questions, like a lot of them. And she also let people know that she would be talking with her mom, Christine. And, you know, if anyone had questions for Christine, she would pass them on to Christine. And that she needed to talk to her mom first before she actually put something out and responded to what he said. And then the response is, I would advise you to not believe everything that he says, to not listen to or indulge in his content because it'll encourage him to do more, to not take what he says as fact. And she doesn't say what you shouldn't take as fact. He talked about a lot in that video. He talked about his mom. He talked about Meri. He talked about Christine. He talked about Janelle. He talked about Gwen. He talked about Leon. He talked about his brothers. He talked about his own life. He talked about his job. So my question is, what are they not supposed to take as fact? People wanted to know about the allegations about Paedon that he made against Meri, and she's saying, well, if it's in response to that, that actually contradicts what she said in her own comments, that she did witness that Meri did something to her sister McKelty, and she also called her scary and rude. And there's enough evidence through the show, through the book, through their interactions, and through Meri's own behavior online to prove that she was not nice to the kids. I actually went back and watched season 14 when Kody and Meri went to therapy, and Kody specifically spoke about how something happened between her and the older kids and the wives. So the older kids are the kids that Christine and Janelle had. So the wives are Janelle and Christine, and how she needs to correct those relationships and really make amends for those situations. And then Meri spoke about how she knew that she had difficult relationships with some of the older kids, and she had burned some bridges, but she also said that she had better relationships with some of the other kids. So there was a lot of dancing around, but there was this something happened with Meri and the kids. Everyone talks about something happened with Meri and the kids. Something had to have happened. This isn't a gaslighted situation where everyone is making this up. You know, what I don't like, though, is that there's so much focus on what Meri did, and everyone's ignoring the fact that Paedon flat out said that his dad smacked him in the mouth and hit him with a paddle. If anything, it just proves that there was multiple people in this house doing things to children. And regardless, it's the expectation and fundamentalism that corporal punishment is standard. It's not an exception. It's basically the rule. And if you grow up in that type of environment, of course they were going to have kids that were getting paddled and hit and slapped and punched. It was evident in how the boys interacted with each other. They would like give each other bloody noses. She's mad at him because she says that he caused her trauma and he was the worst person to her. And that could be true, but he also could be responding to what he's seen in the home. He could be responding to how he's being treated. He can be responding to what happened to him, what he's witnessed, what he's seen. It's an unhealthy environment for everyone. So my question to her is, what are we not supposed to believe him on?
Once I can fall asleep at night without heavy medication, I definitely want to talk more about this. I want to talk more about what I've been through, especially this situation. And I definitely have enough trauma that I could probably write a book on just a month of my life. I don't want to address hatred because I feel like it ignites more hatred, and it seems that this is a lot bigger than I originally assumed it would be. So I want to keep it a little minimal, and I want to make sure that I can mentally prepare myself before I actually address this situation. Right now, however, the focus of my life is on school and my marriage and a lot of self-healing, and I appreciate everybody who's reached out, and I hope that I can help dispel some confusion.
In the part that I actually cut out of this video, she said that all of the trauma that she has in her life is because of Paedon. She said that Paedon is by far the most violent one in the family. She said that she has to be in therapy and she's on medication and she's got anxiety and she's dealing with mental health stuff because of Paedon. I believe that Paedon was probably not a nice big brother. He's older than her, and if any of you have a big brother, you might have experienced similar behaviors of being bullied by your older brother. And that I don't discount that she's probably experienced very harmful things from her. But that doesn't negate that he might have experienced harmful things from other people, including Meri and his dad. And it's ironic, or not ironic, it's odd that she said, I don't want to respond to hate with hate. And I didn't realize that the situation was going to get as big as it is. I'm assuming she's talking about what she believes is the hate that he spewed towards women, towards the LGBTQ+, how he dead named Leon, how he spoke about how Leon transitioned for attention, which is horrible. How he got more attention for working as a bouncer at a strip club than when Leon came out as non-binary. So, he did say some pretty loaded content that wasn't kind. And in that respect, I can understand her anger because she's a bisexual woman. She's engaged to a woman, and she's not going to be supportive of anyone dead naming Leon, acting like what Leon's doing is for attention, acting like what she does is for attention. I mean, he also spoke about how she uses her autism for attention, which is also very telling because, Gwen does have autism. And so in some ways, I can only speak because of my son. So I don't want to say that I can speak for her, but I can say that with people that have autism, it's not uncommon for rigid and fixed thinking to occur. And so it can be things can be one way or another, and everything has to be that way. And once, in some people with autism, once they categorize something as this, that is what it is. And getting them to sometimes see outside of that and to see more into the gray area can be challenging. And so part of what she's thinking and feeling, I'm not negating what Paedon said, because some of the things that he said were really awful. But some of the feelings that she might have about her life could be compartmentalized due to the fact that she is neurodivergent. And there's nothing wrong with the way that she compartmentalizes. It's just, it can be challenging for someone to see anything differently than that once they've made they've siloed that. And again, I'm only speaking in my experience of having a child on the spectrum. Not every person on the spectrum is the same, but rigid, fixed thinking is a common attribute of someone on the spectrum. With that said, I don't believe she's using her autism for attention. I think coming out about her autism is very brave because neurodivergence is not anything that is really accepted in fundamentalisms. Mental health issues are not accepted. Therapy isn't accepted. Being on medication isn't accepted. So in many ways, her taking care of her mental health and getting the help that she needs is commendable. And I'm very proud of her for doing that. But I think she has a loyalty to Meri because Meri does support her identity. Meri is supportive of Leon and Leon being LGBTQ+, and Meri is supportive of Leon's transition. Meri is supportive of Gwendlyn. Meri has always liked Gwendlyn. Gwendlyn and Meri have always had a really good relationship. So she probably has a level of loyalty to Meri. So she's probably feeling like pulled. Gwendlyn has made her own comments about her dad that show that he's doing things behind the scenes, like he is trying to silence them. She confirmed that by saying that she finds it hypocritical, She did confirm some of the things that he said in that video as true. So that's again why it's confusing, because I don't know what she says that he's not saying is true. I don't think some of the things that he said about her are true. I think when he spoke about Gwen, he spoke from a place of anger, and I think he spoke from a very vindictive and angry place. And I think that's wrong. And I wish the two of them could work it out, but she says that there's no path to restoration. She's not going to have a relationship with him because he never changes, which is actually similar to how some of the wives and kids feel about Meri. I'm sure in a family this size, there's always going to be people that like each other and that don't like each other. And so it's going to make dissecting and deciphering these interpersonal relationships challenging. I feel for her. I didn't like the way that he spoke about Gwendlyn. I don't think it was fair. I didn't like how he spoke about women as a woman. I didn't like a lot of the rhetoric that he was using because he sounded a lot like his dad. But I also don't discount that he might have witnessed Meri doing things to the kids. And he obviously says his dad did things to kids. So moving on, it was Kody's birthday yesterday. He turned 54. Nobody said happy birthday to him online, which I don't know if that's super uncommon. The wives have kind of skipped his birthday the last couple of years and not acknowledged him, so maybe that's not an issue. And Robyn's never online, so you can't expect her to say literally anything to anyone because Kody's probably got her so isolated and locked down. So Kody gets snubbed by his family on his birthday. And this is my final like rumor clearing up. So online, there's been this like rumor that Robyn is, her ex-husband is related to Kody and to Christine and to Meri through his mom. And I actually found out that the woman that everyone thinks is his mom is not his mom, and he's actually not related to them. It's kind of convoluted, but David Jessup, everyone was assuming his mom was Diane Allred, who is Rex Allred's aunt. So Rex is Christine's dad. Okay. Everyone was saying that Rex's was David's mom, David Jessup, which is Robyn's ex-husband, and that Rex and David were first cousins. And I actually asked Kristen Decker, who is from the AUB, and she's first cousins with Rex as well. And her aunt is Diane. And I asked her if her aunt Diane had David Preston Jessup, and she said no. She said she does have a cousin named David Jessup, who is in his late 50s, early 60s, and that David Preston Jessup is in his early 40s, and that she believes that his mother is Martha, who is the librarian up in Pinesdale. And I did we were able to verify through some social media posts, through some links, through different websites, that Martha is David Preston Jessup's mother, and she is not related at all to Christine, to Kody, or to Meri. So Robyn's ex-husband is not related to any of them. There are always like 2 or 3 degrees of separation, or maybe 4 or 5 when it comes to the LDS and the FLDS, because it all is rooted from the same group of people. If you go back historically, as they migrated from, I think, Illinois into Utah. And so it was a small group of ancestors that populated. And so they all have similar roots, and they all could probably find one person that they have in common, though it would be so far removed in the gene pool that it wouldn't be necessarily like, it wouldn't cause any issues in development of kids. Not like first cousins, second cousins. I mean, it could be 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th cousins type of thing. So with that being said, the rumor that David Preston Jessup, Robyn's ex-husband, is related to Christine and Kody and Meri is false. They are not related. He is the biological father of Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna. And his mom is Martha, and his mom is a librarian at the Pinesdale School for the AUB. And he has a brother named Hiram, who is also Martha's son. So yeah, and David still lives up there. So that's me clearing up that rumor. So what are your thoughts about the continued fallout? Do you agree with Gwen? Do you side with Paedon? Do you think they're both lying? Do you think they're both telling the truth? Do you think there's something in the middle? Do you think one of the moms meddled and tried to get the damage to do damage control through Gwen? Do you think Gwen is being hypocritical, or do you think it's fair for her to say don't listen to Paedon? What are your thoughts? I'm of the opinion you should listen to as many opinions as possible, and you decide who you like agree with or disagree with or believe or don't believe. That's always how I think. But what are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Bye guys.